Okay, well it is 7 o'clock, so can we make a start, and can I welcome you to the March meeting of the FES committee. Are there any apologies?
Yeah, Councillor D. Coburn-Price and Councillor Jane Nixon.
Okay. Are there any declarations of interest? No? The minutes of the last meeting, would someone like to move them or otherwise? We seconded. Are there any comments or corrections to the minutes? No. Can I see those in favour of the minutes then, please? Thank you. Item 5, public forum. There's no public present and there's none asked to join on
Nobody
Zoom,
registered, no.
Item 6, financial update.
Right, well, I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary, apart from the one thing that may scupper us before year end is town hall repairs and maintenance. We have had, which I'll come to later in the meeting with the update, more water ingress, which will require emergency work and repairs. Other than that, there's nothing foreseen to deplete the budget in any kind of major way.
Chairman, just following that.
Yeah.
I can't do the maths in my head, as we're only 30 days away from the end of the anyway, any work we have to do on the town hall roof now, or associated bits and pieces, most of it will be in the new financial year anyway, so it shouldn't have too much of a, yeah, we may very well have to commit something next year that we hadn't thought about.
I would probably suggest that if there is any surplus budget in repairs and maintenance, it's not looking likely, to be honest, but if there is, to carry it forward.
Well, we can have a look in another month at the end of the financial year what, if anything, there is left at the outturn, and we could divert some of that into, if need be, into the buildings budget for next year. And we could put it into earmark reserve for town hall building. I feel there will be some left at outturn. As yet, we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but we could divert some of that into the earmark reserve for the town hall building when we get this outturn figure.
I think it will be the May FES, because I don't think we have enough time in the April ones. It's too early in the month after the year end. But I will be bringing a investment strategy forward for the year, which will detail any budgets that need to be, that I would recommend you carry forward, and where any surplus funds may be directed, i.e. which earmark reserves to add to. So is there any questions on the detailed stuff? No.
Taking all three together, Chair. Move all three together. Yeah, I'll do that.
Seconded. Yeah. All those in favour? Yeah. Are we going to report the extra work that needed doing on 2 of the rooms when we come to item 10, which is the
Yes.
maintenance. Yeah, that's fine. So moving on then, item 7, standing orders. Consider an updated version of the Town Council's standing orders.
To be honest, a lot of this is taken from NALC's guidance anyway. The standing orders tend to be, it's more the financial regs that are more personal to the actual council, and the way that the staff team is organised. So a lot of this were just slight amendments. Some of the references were incorrect, but really there's no major changes there anyway.
Howard?
I can't find it now. On the page where it says about apologies, and again, I can't find it. It says about recording apology. Maybe it's in the minutes, but I can't.
Yeah.
Ah. Right. No, I found it now. It's on page 6. It says the time and the minutes should record the time and the place of the meeting. Then it says the names of councillors present and absent. And we record members who've sent their apologies, but we don't record.
We have started doing that now. Yeah. So yeah, from tonight's meeting, I will class Emma as being absent because I didn't get apologies.
There is another slight anomaly with that as well, because with some organisations, if you give your apologies and the apologies are accepted, it covers you for all sorts of legal purposes, for, you know, even though you haven't attended. And I think, well, there are some councillors think if they've had their apologies accepted, they are covered and don't fall into the trap of the 6-month rule. I do not think with the council that is correct. I think whether they're accepted or not, you still fall foul of the 6-month rule.
We could quite easily just say apologies were received from.
Yeah.
That would be a dispensation, specific dispensation.
Yes, unless you go to dispensation, there's no way around the 6-month rule. Yeah. Another thing I've looked at on standing orders, and some of them has been corrected, and I think 1 or 2 of them haven't, and it falls the same on the next item as well. We did have a clerk, and we did have an RFO, and in the standing orders and the financial regs, they are classed as 2 separate people, and in some places in one paragraph it might say the clerk can do this and the RFO can do that, but you can, so technically as they stand, they are still correct, because Gina can do a certain thing as RFO and she can do a certain thing as clerk, because she's both now. Or we could remove the RFO bit from it and put RFO, you know, clerk stroke RFO. And what I've been advised on, rightly or wrongly, well, I'll tell you what I've been advised on. we need to take out of it where it in financial ones, which is the next item anyway, where it gives an instance where the clerk can possibly say authorise payments up to 10,000 and the RFO up to 5,000. We've got to make it quite clear. I know we would never do it, but we've got to cover his own backs, but otherwise we'll have NALC all over us or auditors or whoever. We've got to be quite clear that that person can't do it at 15,000 and 10 as one and 5 as the other, and that has actually come from NALC to me. So I think we need to make sure we get them all and alter it to the clerk.
I can tell you that some of them have been left because it is specifically the RFO's responsibility in some cases. So I've just left it as RFO because of that. Like with the AGAR and stuff like that, it is the RFO.
And there are also one or two places where the clerk and the RFO jointly can sign something off. Well, there's going to have to be something else put in there for someone else to sign it off now, isn't there, as a second person? So we need to make sure we pick all them up, otherwise auditors will find it if we don't. Other than that, I think they're okay.
I will say where I've put, especially in the financial regulations in the scheme of delegations at the back, where it says town clerk stroke RFO, that's referring to me. So I haven't done it as if it's two people. It is just me, my role.
Are we moving the first lot?
Yes. Yeah, if someone wants to move the standing orders,
I'll move
and then we'll go on to the
standing orders.
Before we do that, David Coburn Price has sent me some notes, which I will read some of them out, just so that you can take them into account. So he's put in 3Q, if you want to find that. The standing orders, yeah. So it says, unless standing orders provide otherwise, voting on a question shall be by a show of hands. At the request of a councillor, the voting on any question shall be recorded so as to show whether each councillor present and voting gave his vote for or against that question. Such a request shall be made before moving on to the next item of business on the agenda. Now, David has put, it reads like we have a show of hands and then the named vote can be requested. So he thinks it needs to make it clear at what stage a named vote is required to be requested.
Before the vote is taken, is the normal procedure. If you want it recording, you've usually to request the name vote before the vote is taken.
So he's just put i.e. by a councillor during the debate or at least before any vote. But it does say, doesn't it?
I think you can read it either way. Because it says, unless standing orders provide otherwise, voting on a question shall be by a show of hands. Perhaps we need to put the named vote bit as R, and then the minutes of the meeting make S.
Yeah.
So that we've got a named vote. At the request of a councillor, the voting on any question shall be recorded, blah, 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 before the vote is...
Yeah, it needs to categorically say that if you want to have a named vote, which is fine, you've got to request it before the vote is taken, because it is not normal practice to take the vote twice, and you'd have to take it twice if you did it the other way around.
I think it's getting better, but
yeah.
Show of hands.
Yes.
At the request.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at Pendle level and various other levels that I've been involved in, you've always had to request it before the vote was taken. I see any more comments on?
The only other
On the
comment
standing
was that it says providing accounts information, financial information, about providing it quarterly. But he's put, obviously, he said you may as well put monthly, as that's what we do, rather than quarterly, but I don't think it really makes. It's on both standing orders and in financial regulations as well.
Because, I mean, God forbid, but you might get hit by a bus on the way home, and with a broken leg or something. So, as long as it's a maybe the word minimum is the.
Just put at least, oh, as a minimum quarterly, yeah. Yeah.
So,
Those amendments I'll move.
is that seconded? Yeah? Those in favour? It's going to full council anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Financial regulations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on financial regs?
Well, carrying on from what I was saying before, about if you signed something off and then it needed someone else to sign it off, do we need someone else within the establishment able to sign some of the smaller things off as well, so that you're able to, do more of you still be able to carry on doing most of the day-to-day tasks within in-house?
That's why I've added the finance officer.
Right.
Because in essence, there were the town clerk and the RFR. As I'm now taking on both those roles, that responsibility, the finance officer will then have the responsibility for the payments. So really, what was the RFO's limit, I've substituted for the finance officer. So you've still got the two.
Yeah.
I noticed that in the detail bit at the back that the finance officer had appeared.
Because what we don't want to be is sort of bogged down and can't get a signature if something's needed. She quite often emails me a document and I scan it, sign it, and print it, sign it, scan it, and send it back. But we can't always do that, can we? You need two people in office with most of the day-to-day things that can sign it off. So I'm happy with that. Is there anything else at financial regs?
So are we saying subject to those minor amendments again? Yeah.
Yeah, same again. And refer it to full council. Yeah.
Got a seconder for that. Brian, are you? Yeah.
Those in favour? Right. Item 9. Risk register.
So the changes, I have highlighted obviously in purple. Not too many changes. I'm happy with how quite a lot of it is going, and it's just ongoing. Wouldn't change current procedure in any way. But obviously the bits that I've highlighted are the bits that I've changed. So if anyone, I did that obviously so you could home in on those areas, and if there is anything that you disagree with or have any issues with, then just to let me know.
I think it's fine. I mean, you're lucky. You've either got an A3 printer or you get special privileges. No, I mean, from the reading of it, I don't. I was going to say that there's nothing to worry about. I mean, obviously there is if something major happens, but you hope that by the measures put in place, they'll be foreseen and headed off at the pass, as it were. I'm quite happy to move to full council. We send it to full council to adopt or note or whatever they do.
You seconding it, Brian? Yeah, those in favour? We're going to be finished in no time. Well, we're not, because I've got an extra item yet, but that's another story. Town hall maintenance, item 10.
So, as you may be aware, I think it was mentioned at the last FES that we had part of a ceiling collapse in the room next to the one that we've just done, which did actually then go straight down into Eugene's office. So Eugene is now in what was Naomi's office. And so we've had to get quotes in for that emergency work to be done. The idea is that we get the room stripped as soon as possible to allow them to fully dry out. Meanwhile, we are getting a lead specialist to come in and check the lead in the gutters at the front of the building. Whilst he's there, we're also going to get him to look now at the side of the chambers, because again we've got what looks like more moisture coming in. So we have also had more water ingress in my office, which is directly below the committee room. Having looked at the committee room, it seems to be coming from part way down the wall. So we're thinking that it's the windows, or one window in particular, that if you touch it, it's rotten inside, basically. So that window needs replacing anyway, regardless of whether that's the issue.
So the window in the
Yes. But the building contractor came in today to have a look at it, tested the wall to see how wet it was, but he said it is quite wet, not just under the window either. So it may not be just the window. But obviously, yeah. So that's another thing that we'll need looking at. The rooms will need to be, my office, to be honest, it was done, it was about 2 years ago when we had the water ingress last time. So we've had the committee room was done at the same time. However, if it is the window, then obviously that would be an easier fix. But they're not complete renovations. It's just a case of just looking at those sections. obviously we need to stop any water ingress. But Eugene's, he measured Eugene's office for moisture, and that's completely dry. Eugene, down.
Yeah, sorry. His old office or his new office?
Oh, his old office. So that's directly below the other room where, yeah. So that is now completely dry. So, but it does need, we're going to do, obviously we have a planned maintenance program, which we're gradually obviously trying to get rid of the lowered ceilings, etc., and try and restore back to how it would have looked originally. So that's going to be, these rooms are going to be the next ones to do. Again, we've got quotes for taking out the lowered ceilings, etc., and then repairing the cove-ins, etc. So just sooner than we'd anticipated.
I think the problem is we didn't get solder put. That's perhaps too strong a word. I think we just, the building was perhaps not in as good a state as we thought it was. I suspect it wasn't done deliberately, but I think over time, with different people being in and out of here, Leisure Trust, and when we had a housing department, and Housing Pendle were in for a bit, weren't they? So all in all, I'm pretty sure that everybody sort of did the best, but didn't. Now we are the longer, we're going to be, well, we are not, but the town council are going to be custodians of the building from now until whenever.
Yeah.
So we might as well make as good a job of it as we can, and if that means we're forever attacking bits of it, so be it. It's all we can do. But hopefully, one of the solutions, one of the longer term solutions, is a rig roof to it, and I think probably during next year we're going to have to bite the bullet and start the plans rolling.
Yeah.
Do we know the cost of doing these?
Yeah, we got the quotes through, and they're just over 10 grand a piece for each room. Obviously, given that the current contractors have done quite a lot of work, the same kind of work, it makes sense for them to do the other rooms as well. What I will tell you though is there wasn't enough in the repairs and maintenance budget for the town hall. So David actually authorised a virement from the free swimming for 2021-22. Obviously, we're not going to spend that. So yeah, it's rather than it just being sat there. I mean, if we know we're not going to spend it, then let's use it for that. So
Just to make it quite clear, whilst we're on air, the virement we've taken is from this financial year's budget for the free swimming, which we couldn't use because of the lockdowns. The budget for next year, from Easter onwards, is still there in place. We haven't touched that. Just to be quite clear.
yeah, no, it's already agreed for next year. It's just simply because they didn't provide the service this year, so we haven't needed to spend the money.
I thought with us coming up to year end, for us outturn, it made more sense to use some money that we weren't going to be able to use out of this year's budget, rather than start raiding money out of reserves to end up with a larger outturn figure and have to put it back. So it just made sense. So that's where we are.
On another note, cheerier note, the chimes at the town hall clock are now working. So both on the hour and every 15 minutes. So it's a case of keeping an eye on that, making sure it keeps time. Obviously, if there are any issues, then we'll just let the contractor know. And he'll...
Has it been working?
2 days.
So obviously it changed from 12 to about, I don't know, is it 4 or 7 or something like that. I looked up and it's changed, it's not working.
It was working on Friday, weren't it?
No, on the hour it was, but not the quarter of an hour ones. He came back on Monday to do that, and we had a day of constant bells because he was trying to get them at the right time, and so but hopefully he's got it right and he's got them working.
At the risk of not getting the answer I really want to hear, how much did it cost?
It was altogether, I think it's been round about, I don't think it was like £8,000, I think. We did pay him some money up front to get all the things cleaned and transferred, etc. But it's
I wish we could send all down hall.
But it's he was trying to explain half of it to me, and it's just way over my ears.
It's still in the right time.
It is, yes.
We still have the flagpole to sort at some point.
We do.
We couldn't do it because of bad weather and winds before when they came.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect we might.
It's wrong time of year to be. When you have to book something a week or 2 weeks in advance, it's wrong time of year to be booking now and hoping it's not windy in a week.
Yeah, I would recommend that you wait, till at least till it calms down.
Is there anything else on town hall maintenance?
I don't think so. I think that's everything.
Okay, that's seconded. Okay, thank you. Items for a future month's agenda. No? Well, before we come to the last item, which is the date and time of the next regular meeting, I want us to consider another item tonight, which relates to the enforcement of the public space protection orders in our parks. Because I've no doubt all of you have seen what's been said on Facebook in the last few days about how the enforcement officer is talking to and dealing with people in our park that he determines have not been sticking to the rules. I don't think any of us have a problem with having rules for the park, for the public space protection order around dogs. I don't think that's a problem at all. And if there are rules, people should stick to them. What my objection is, the obnoxious way in which this enforcement officer is talking to the public and dealing with the public and giving the fines out. And I do not think it is appropriate and right for him to be doing it like that. And there's been a lot of complaints in the last 3 or 4 days. And what I would like to do is discuss it tonight and then authorise Gina to write to Pendle Council and outline our concerns.
We're talking about Alpine Court here.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
I've seen the issue with bar liquor.
Well, it's same here. Yeah. I mean, allegedly, and I can say only saying allegedly, I'm not saying the guys made it up at all, but I can only say allegedly because I wasn't there. But there's been an accusation that the enforcement officer went up to this guy who admits himself the dog wasn't on a lead. I don't think he knew that it had to be on a lead, and the notices are that small, unless you stood within 6 inches of them, you probably need a magnifying glass to read them anyway, and they're totally inappropriate. And he did actually say to this guy, well, seeing as it's your first offence, I won't fine you, we'll just give you a warning. But for my records, in inverted commas, to show that I have given you a warning, I need your name and address. So he gave him his name and address in fairness. And then the enforcement officer turns round to him and he says, with a grin on his face, well, here's your fixed penalty notice. I were only joking when I said I weren't going to fine you. So he actually got that bloke's name and address. I think, sort of illegally in a sense, because I think he deceived the guy by saying, I'm only going to give you a warning. And then when he gave him his name and address for the records, he says, well, I were only joking, here's your fixed penalty notice. And I think that's totally out of order. And they shouldn't be allowed to do that. And what I want us to put in the letter is our concerns about the way the enforcement people are handling these fines, and also our concerns that when Pendle Council decided to use district enforcement to enforce the dog fouling and dogs on leads laws in Alkincoats Park, they did not inform this council, who is the owner of the park, and we carry all the costs for it, and we are the owner of it. We hold the freehold for that park. And Pendle Council did not contact us in any way, shape or form and say we're going to start using district enforcement on your park. I feel we should have been told. I also feel that we should have been told that they were going to put these notices up in our park in various places, and they should have shown us the notices first to make sure we thought they were appropriate and they were of a design that was big enough for people who probably didn't have 100% perfect sight to be able to read them. And we should have had sight of them so that we could say whether they were appropriate or not. And more to the fact, I think it needs pointing out to Pendle Borough Council that had we have known 2 years ago, when we took over this park, that they were going to put district enforcement in charge of enforcing the bylaws on our park, we would not have taken it over. And that's what I would like us to put in the correspondence to Pendle Borough Council. Now, the other three of you might not agree with me, and we'll see what you'll say.
Well, because it was a nice afternoon, I thought I'd go for a little walk up the park this afternoon. off Pendle's website, that's the size of map you get on an A4 piece of paper. I didn't have a tape measure with me, but I would guess that the signs that are there are no bigger than A4. So that map is either on there at that size, or it's reduced. To aid it a little bit, the ones on the sign, the signs that are put up, are actually in colour. The one that you get off the website is in black and white, and that's hard enough at A4 size to work out what the difference is, because they're all little speckles and little. It's not hatched or just solid colour, so you can tell that they're either speckles or squared off, or well, I don't know what the one they've used for where dogs on leads should be. I think also, again allegedly, they're saying, well, it's not a fine, it's a penalty notice. I think most people would accept that if you've got a fixed penalty notice, it's a fine. They're playing with semantics. There is also a question I've found out that district enforcement, their contract carried on or was renewed without ever going back to councillors to do. So there's a question about whether they acted out with their powers in re-engaging them. Apart from that, they're obviously after, the way they make their money is they collect all the fines and the fixed penalties, and Pendle get half and they get half, or whatever the ratio is. So obviously they go for the easy option, and they must stand on the bit by the car park, because we're only talking about the area that goes from I can't remember what its name is now, what was the Scout Hut, the actual car park, and the path up to Ivanhoe. And it doesn't go any further than that. So it's only that tiny little. I wonder why they bothered in making it that. I'm guessing it's because the people on that row have that's their access to the houses. So I'm guessing that's why they've done it, so that from a safety point of view. But it's just, there is a problem at the moment with Pendle Council, who seem to think we don't exist and seem to have a feeling that they don't need to talk to us about anything, don't need to ask our opinion about anything. And this has happened on 2 or 3 things lately. There's the question of, going slightly off the subject, the question of redeveloping the market, the other questions of taking on further services from them, and I think they just seem to think they can wave a wand and we'll roll over and accede to their request. The other one that I was forgetting about was the skate park that they say we're going to hereinafter pay for the maintenance for the next until it falls apart. Well, it's not in the budget, so they can go whistle. I think that's a legitimate phrase. I think it's right. I think we just have to send a letter, as you say, and say, yeah, thank you very much. not much point in putting those notices up because A, you can't read them, you can't see them.
They're blurred at best.
Unless you get right up to them. And, you know, start treating us like we're grown-ups and stop taking us for granted. Yours sincerely, Combe Town Council. So if you're moving, we write to them, I'm seconding it.
Well, another thing that to do with the part that's where dogs have to be on lead, and it isn't very clear on the map, and I don't think it needs to be, as the map is intending it to be, but the way I read the map, particularly if you zoom into it so it's very big, I think you will find that the path that runs on from the car park to the pavilion is also dogs on leads, and so is the path that runs along the bottom of the bowling greens.
I don't think it is, looking at
Well,
this here, because they've put a blocked line round the car park. And
yes,
so.
but there's certainly, on coloured map, it's in yellow. And the bit where the dogs can't go at all, such as in play area, is like a browny reddy colour. And if you look where the pavilion is, there's definitely a yellow outline along the edge of the red where the bowling greens are. Yes.
I've only got black and white, so.
But it definitely shows it. Now, I don't think that should be there, and I don't think it's necessary for it to be there.
Looking at it in black and white, I would say that the bit round the pavilion and roundabout, it says no restrictions.
Yeah. And then it's up to the owner to keep his dog under control and keep it off the bowling green itself.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
I mean, the other question of things, it's all really about keeping your dog under control. And as I say, I walked up to the park and sort of did a circuit this afternoon. There were lots of, because it was nice weather, there were lots and lots of dog walkers about. And there wasn't one of them that I would have said had their dog out of control. There was one that had a tiny dog on a lead that looked about a mile long, but it seemed a heck of a lead for the type of dog that he had on it. But I even overheard as I was walking past 2 or 3 dog walkers talking. One of them was saying, "I keep it on the lead because I know she won't come back. So when I take her off the lead, I go to, I forget where she is, but I can go there and it's enclosed and so I've got her under control." So the majority of them are well behaved, well looked after, and are obeying the order of and keeping the dogs on under control. Never mind on a lead. It's having them under control. It's when they're not under control and don't return when you call them that's the problem. But
I think, in fairness to most of the dog walkers, probably in the high 90% of the dog walkers who go on Alkincoats Park, most of them know their own dog and know what their own dog will and won't do, and they have it under control. And they're all just being penalised and treated in a silly manner and an out of order manner by these enforcement officers. And it's got to stop. I've moved it, and you've seconded it, that we're right, Howard. What I would also like to add to that is I would expect, in all sincerity, that Pendle would reply to us fairly quickly, because it does want sorting out. And I don't want to wait 4 weeks until this committee meets again. Well, it'll be 5 weeks to the next FES, because the first Monday won't be on 1st of April, will it? Obviously, it's 1st of April, so it will be 5 weeks to the next one. I certainly don't want to wait 5 weeks for an update. So can I ask that an update on any response from Pendle Council goes to the next full council, which is in 2 weeks? And we can discuss it there then, and possibly it might be an appropriate place to discuss it, because some of the people who are behind all this happening with district enforcement are members of this council, and we can discuss it with them at the meeting in 2 weeks. So can we take a vote on that with a show of hands? Thank you. And the next meeting, well, it says on here, doesn't it? The next meeting is on Tuesday the 5th of April, which, as I said, is in 5 weeks. So can I thank you all for attending and close the meeting?
Still